Okay, so I am going to be building and creating a probe to orbit Kerbal, or a satellite as it's called on here. So I need to build a new unmanned probe that has an antenna, can generate power, and must be fully assembled when launched. There's virtually no exciting things here at all. It just has to be new. That's it. And there's the orbit specifics. So we can find out a bit more about the orbit specifics in a minute before we actually finish launching. First thing I'm going to do, however, is I'm going to actually build it. So a probe, generally speaking, is quite a small thing. I tend to use these probe octos, but you could use a stay button if you wanted, or something else. Okay, so this specification says it needs to be able to generate power and have an antenna. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some power on it. There's some power. We're going to allow it to be able to generate power. So we've got 4 panels around it. And just because they wanted it, they also want an antenna. Well, it's 24, so it's evenly weighted. And just so that we have the ability to redock with other vehicles, I'm also going to stick a, where is it? I can never find these things. There it is. A docking port on the top. And is fuel that I'm looking for. No. That one. Never remember which one it is. Okay, so this is monopropellant. I'm going to give it a monopropellant thruster, basically. So I can either use the puff engines or jump. Actually, I'm just going to do this. Yeah, why not? Let's take these on it. So we've got 4 of these as well. Right. So let's just line these things up so that they are actually centralised. There we go. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. There we go. Ready. So this is our slightly different position. This is our actual probe that we're going to be launching, and that is that part complete. So turn it upside down and work on the next bit. So the next bit is I'm going to be shielding this, which I can do with one of those and a decoupling option so that you can recouple. Just a nice way of doing things. There's our top part all ready to go. It's a nice little unit. So if you've seen any of my, if you saw my last stream, you'd have seen that I've probably built these before with a sub-assembly. What I'm going to do is stick that on the bottom there. And that also contains one of these, which I can set as our root component. Like that. There we go. Which now means that it's controlled from there instead of up here by default. I'm going to disconnect the top bit from here. Hang on. Reconnect it first. Nothing's connecting. No! Tell you what, let's reconnect it all back together for a minute, and we're going to reroute back to this part here. There you go. Okay, so we've rerouted back to there so that just so I can pull it apart and show you this. So I pull that over there. I can give you a weight of the vehicle, which is only 0.3 tons, which means this is way overkill for what's actually required. But I'm going to use it anyway, just that gives us plenty of opportunity. Okay, so next we're going to just check our staging is correct. So the first stage is these. These are the heaviest things, they're also the biggest lift. But I want them to run out of fuel first, and I want these to run out of fuel second, because we don't need quite so much power in space to push us around. Plus it's also the lightest way of improving height. Okay, so we don't want to be detaching those first, we want to be detaching the other ones first. And now we can see we actually have some meters a second, so we can see these ones run for 2,500, these ones for 1,200. When that pops off, we then open that up for 3,200, then we open up the top, and the top is separated. That's on its own. It doesn't actually have a proper engine in it. I could add one as a basic measure, so if I trying to see if I can hide it. I'll leave it as is. Okay, fine. So if I come back to here and I can do that, can't I? And give it a little bit of actual fuel. Not that one. That's liquid fuel. That's 24, 27. Oscar. There we go. A little Oscar. So we have a little Oscar tank with where is it? After a tiny engine like that. There it is, Terrier. Is it a Terrier? It's too big. I swear I had a smaller one. Poodle's even bigger. Maybe I haven't got the miniaturised one that I thought I'd got. Well, maybe it is that one. Spark. Fine. Turn that over. Okay, so we've now got another engine on the top. And as you can see, the fairing is no longer correct. So let's edit the fairing. Right mouse button to edit the previous section. There we go. So now we have our rocket. So as I was saying earlier, the weight of the top part was 0.3, it's now 0.8 tons. That's the weight of the fuel, which is why you don't really need it. Okay, so we should have a full functional rocket. So we've got two sets of boosters. Stage 1, stage 2 of that, the clam, and stage whichever one it is. This is 0 meters a second, but it's not 0 technically, it's just the way it's set up with the rest of the rocket. So if I pull that off, so it's actually 900. And 900 is on Kerbal, not in space. So if I put it back here, I'll show you again. It's actually 1100. So it's a decent amount in space. You can get most places for 1100. Okay, so this is a satellite for reaction systems. So let's call it reaction systems. I can't spell tonight. Sat 1, just in case there's a for them. There we go, save that. And let's go for a launch. I forgot to reroute, so I'm going to have to change my control point. Okay. One moment. Okay, so we are ready to launch. As I said, we need to reroute. This is pointing down, that's why it's brown instead of blue. So let's open up this here, find our unit and say control from here instead. There we go. So now we can do that. We can stick SAS on, zoom out. Before we do, we need to find out where our orbit is going to be. So it's this one here, which is going in that orbit. which means a standard circular orbit is fine. So we want to go 90 degrees and we should be fine. So we're going to be heading right. Okay, so we're not ready for stage start yet. Partly because I always forget this. Let me go back to vehicle assembly. This particular sub-assembly isn't quite perfect and needs a slight tweak or two, as I've already kind of shown. This is one of them. Otherwise you end up with wobbly rocket bits. So that's done. I may as well reroute while I'm here. There we go, save, done. Right, okay, ready to launch. This time we're ready. Okay, so having looked at the orbit that we've got to go to on a 90 degree, it looks pretty circular, so it should be a fairly easy one to do. So let's go for it. Full power. Weight distribution changes a little bit as you're actually doing this, so it becomes a bit more difficult to maintain where the fuel is. Interestingly, all the fuel's at the bottom. So now all I need to do is flip this round before we get to 42 kilometers in height. Or maybe we need to check. No, we're right for electric. So we're now at 35 kilometers, so we should be able to just start flipping this thing around. So remember, we're aiming for a 90 degree orbit, which is about here. So if I change this to, it's already on orbit. We can see that's now kind of pointing in the direction we want it to go. So I'm going to fire the thrusters towards it. That's fine, it just means we have less periapsis to worry about when we get there. So that's the kind of angle we're currently looking at. Interestingly, we're on intercept course for quite a few other things here. So how long have we got? 1 minute 44 to get there, and we're kind of looking at probably about that point there. We're just passing into space now. So you can see that it's slowly becoming closer and closer to the horizon line. You can also see we've only got 244 meters left on this stage, which is plenty. So now we're pretty much at the level we want to start burning to get this thing up and running. To keep this at. Anything below 30 seconds, it doesn't increase very much in height. Anything above 30, it goes pretty quickly higher and higher. We will be increasing it, but we do want to get into a circular orbit first. So we're 24, 23 seconds, that'll do. It's going to be a bit slower, it's 1 hour and 11 seconds. orbit. This is where we can finally do our manoeuvres that we need to do to get into this orbit. So the first thing we need to do is check to see what our node is for being able to basically match the orbit. So we can see it's 6 degrees. Now the best way to do this is to actually extend out your apoapsis towards either descending or ascending nodes. So, because this is a non-crewed vehicle, we need some power. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get our solar panels out so that we can make sure this thing doesn't die while we're not doing anything. Next, I'm going to aim for the descending node from... No, I'll do it from the ascending node, I think. Yeah, we're still kind of in daylight here. So I'm going to pull out the power, do it from the top because it's easier. Bring the maneuver node back up. So we're aiming to try and intersect approximately at the ascending node. We don't necessarily want to go all the way out, but we do want it to intersect. So we're going to adjust the time slightly. Okay, so we can see the apoapsis is probably just the wrong side there. So we can adjust about here and it will match. So the reason we've done this is because you're moving at your slowest at the apoapsis. Okay, I can't even pronounce it. And because you're moving at your slowest, you can move or maneuver your position at the strongest level at that point. So we're doing a big burn of 745 to get out here. But that is one of the biggest parts you need to do. So let's see, we've got 13 minutes before we have to take our manoeuvre. So I'm going to warp ahead. You can see we've got a minute left to go. So that should give me enough time to turn this vehicle. I'm not doing anything clever with height or anything like that. We're just literally burning at the apoapsis. Here. Now, what I can do, if I come out of map view, is I can do it from here. If I want to. We're aiming to try and hit the boost around that. The reason I'm not going to is because I want to watch this blue line go out, because I don't want it to go too far, because half a second I'll be out here, which, well, you know, half a second, another half second, another half second, and you're suddenly out the solar system. Okay, not that extreme, but still. So thank you for all the viewers who I believe are not watching currently. So in 9 seconds I'm going to power up. 3, 2, 1, power. So there we go, there's the apoapsis raising, we're aiming about 4.9 here. And we've run out of fuel on those. Brilliant. So let's drop those and stop. 4.7. 4.8, that'll do. Right, so this is our actual end orbit. So here's our apoapsis, and if we go to about here, we can kind of line up as best as possible and reset that because that didn't work. There we go. Line it up about there. So what we're aiming to do is we're aiming to raise this side up and lower this side down. And because we're at the ascending anode, AN, means we need to go down. So you can see up makes it go one way, down makes it go the other way. Down is what we're aiming for. We can use this manoeuvre check here to see the inclination. We're aiming for about 6 degrees off of the original, so it's too far. 7.9. There, so that's 6 degrees. Apparently that's the rate of plane. So we're going to go with that. As you can see, it's only going to take 40 meters a second, which, considering we're doing 3,000, doesn't seem like a lot. So I'm going to warp ahead to that manoeuvre. So here I come, out to the manoeuvre, on the blue line, and we're just approaching that now. We're a minute away, but our actual speed at this point is only 384, so we're going to be moving it very slightly. So we know that we're going to be going down, so we may as well prepare. We're looking for about 40 meters a second change. So we can see our inclination here is 0.2, we're aiming for that to be about 6. So we do have a manoeuvre obviously that we can follow, which we can see in the map mode. We don't need to do that because we're going to be using this information here itself. We can also verify some of this information here in a minute. So this says inclination should be 5.5, so I may have gone over slightly. So I'll aim for 5.5. There we go. So we've got 5.6. So just to be sure, we can check the ascending node, wherever it's gone. Descending node, 0. There we go, so that's fine, it's happy with that. So our next thing is we need to be able to extend this out so that it fills the circle. So looking at this, we can see that it kind of does. Reset, let's do that one more time. So this here will aim for approximately a circular orbit of what we're going to do, and then we're going to expand as you can see. It's now starting to move around to about there. So we're aiming to try and get our apoapsises and periapsises in the right places. So we've got a 424 meter a second burn, which is probably what you'd expect. We've still got a monster 3,900 available to us. So that's 5 minutes away, so I'm actually going to warp ahead for that one. So we're about a minute away, so I'm going to adjust my orbit, rocket's position. So we're aiming for the periapsis. Note that I haven't got any helpers other than stability assist, and the stability assist comes in the form of one of these reaction wheels. It should have been in there closed really. We don't need to deploy this yet because we're not in the orbit that we want it to be in. So here's our actual information we're aiming for. So 5 million on the apoapsis and 4.9 million on the periapsis. Longitude of ascending node is 358.4. It's 359 point. Longitude of ascending node. Sorry, it's that one there. 358.9. So it's 0.5 out. But that's fine. We can work with that. So I'm going to accelerator right now. It's very axis rise. We're aiming to bring it over here after all. Get down to about 50-ish, maybe a second that I'll stop accelerating. Okay, so now we're just going to do it by sight. There we go. So according to this, we have now reached the designated orbit. And now all we have to do is maintain stability. So we'll wait for that. That's now completed. So what we're going to do is we're going to deploy our little satellite, swap over to it. And we're going to turn him round. Remember, these are all completely crewless. We're going to turn on RCS and push it away a little bit. And then we're going to turn RCS back off. And we'll aim it at the planet. There we go. So we now have a completely standalone mini orbiting satellite for this company. So we'll swap back to here. We can do whatever we like with this. We don't need the orbit information on it anymore. It's already in the orbit state it wants to be in. We have got plenty of fuel available still to us, so if we wanted to, we could go off and go and do some other bits and pieces with it too, such as potentially refuel something. We haven't got a huge amount of fuel, but it's enough. So I am not going to do anything with its orbit for the moment. I'm going to kind of leave it close to the other satellite, so that if there's anything needed in the short term, I can just reattach. Well, that's a half an hour video for you, compressed from 2 hours 51. Contract is completed. I'm going to go back to the Space Center, and that will be the end of this stream. Thank you for everyone who didn't watch. I hope you enjoy watching it back if you do. Or have. Yeah, I'll do another one of these again at some point. Goodbye.